Alright, today you've got a really brief lesson on circles just to go over some of the basics. So, first of all, in a circle we need to identify two different important things. The first one is the radius, and the radius is always going to go from the center to a point on the circle. Now, I can draw a radius anywhere, but no matter which radius I draw in this particular circle, it's always going to be the same. You can draw 100 radii in the circle, and they're all going to be the same length. Okay, and it's halfway across the circle. The diameter, on the other hand, goes all the way across the circle. It starts and stops on the circle, but it goes through the middle. So this is the diameter. Okay. And as you can kind of maybe see, the diameter is a combination of one radius and a second radius. So the two radii together create the diameter. Okay, so we have formulas. For circumference, there's two things that we can write. Now, I want you to pause the video and get out your formula sheet that you got last class. And on the back of the formula sheet, there's a space for circumference and there's a space for area of a circle. And that's where you're going to add these in. So pause the video until you get the sheet and come back to it. Alright, circumference, the formula is 2 times pi times the radius. Or there's two of them. Pi times diameter also works. Okay? And if you're filling in your chart, your picture, if I go from the center to the side, is the radius and all the way across the diameter. Okay, the next line, area of a circle is pi times the radius squared. So this one for the picture, all we need is the radius because halfway across. Okay, let's try putting some of these formulas into use. So the first one, we want to find the circumference and area. We got to fill in a lot of blanks. The first one is the radius. Well, the radius is given to us. The radius is 10 inches. The next blank is the diameter. To get the diameter, remember the diameter goes all the way across, and it's 2 radii. So you need to think 10 plus 10, or 10 times 2, which would be 20 inches. The circumference, well, there's two formulas for the circumference, and we started with the radius, so we'll just try that one right now. Circumference is 2 times pi times the radius. Now you're going to multiply the numbers. 2 times 10 is 20, so we're going to get 20 pi. You are not, and let me repeat that, not going to grab your calculator and multiply by 3.14. We're going to do what they call exact answers today, and that means that everything is going to be in terms of pi, and you're going to have pi in your inches. Excuse me, pi in your answer. All right. Your label for circumference is inches because circumference is this length. It's the distance all the way around the circle. So if that circle is made out of string and I cut it and open it up straight and measure it on a ruler, that's circumference. It's how far you go all the way around. It's a length. And then the next one is area. Area is how much shaded space, how much space is in the middle. So the area formula, there's only one option, pi times the radius squared. Well, we know the radius is 10. The only thing that we're going to square is the 10, so this becomes 100 pi, and the label is inches squared. We're doing area. And we've done areas before, and it's always going to be inches squared. Also, one other thing I want to point out is that I have the number and then the pi. You don't write the pi and then the number. You always write the number, then the pi. All right, let's try this again for the next example. We want to find the circumference and the area. So this time, we weren't given the radius, we were given the diameter. So the diameter is 14 millimeters. So once we know the diameter, to find the radius is only half of it. It's just this segment here. So to get that, we're going to take 14 divided by 2, which would be 7. So we get 7 millimeters. All right, now we can find the circumference. There's two formulas. They're both equally as good. And for these problems, you know both the radius and the diameter, so it doesn't matter. Let's try using pi times diameter this time. So that means I'm just going to do pi times 14, which would be 14 pi millimeters. Okay. And then area. Area is pi times the radius squared. You can't use the 14. Okay. This formula wants radius. And the radius in this problem is 7. And 7 squared is 49, so I write 49 pi millimeters squared. Notice that I don't put a squared on the pi. Okay, because when I'm doing this part here, I'm only squaring the number, not the pi. All right, let's try one more. Example 3, giving you the radius is 11. So if the, can't write the highlighter, try again. So if the radius is 11 yards, and I knew it was a radius because it only went halfway across, this is the radius, then to get the diameter, I have to double it because the diameter goes all the way across, so that's 22 yards. Circumference, I can do it both ways. You can watch. I can take 2 times pi times 11, or I can take pi times 22. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing. It's still going to get you 22 pi yards. But notice I write the number, and then I write the pi every single time. All right, last thing, I've got area. Area is pi times the radius squared. Well, we already said from the beginning the radius is 11. 11 squared is 121, so I get 121 pi. My label is yards squared. All right, I want you to pause the video and then try the next and last example on your own. Okay, so this one, I gave you the diameter. We knew it was the diameter because it went all the way across. So the radius is half of that. So the radius is just 10. The circumference, I just did pi times diameter because that's so quick. Okay, and the area is pi times the radius squared, which is just 100 pi. All right, for your homework, you're going to do more area problems that we did last time, but then adding on some of these circle ones, which should go pretty quickly. Both these notes and the area worksheet are due before you leave class. You may not start any other homework until you finish these notes completely and do the worksheet that the sub gives you.